Good morning, people of God. You know, I'm walking in the nature and I got a word. I started this series about grief, and I've been so happy to share. God has taught me a lot in these past few years about grief. It's been such a hard process. Um, I am a grief counselor, but because I go through grief, it's been some days are tougher than the others, and I still struggle through it, but trying to learn and help others any way I can. And I wanted to make today's episode about accountability. Accountability is very important, and it does tie to the other part I made. It was blame, because when you take accountability for what you have done, then it makes blame easier. If you take accountability of what, like if your sister overdosed and you wasn't there for her, okay, but how is that your fault? If you take accountability, okay, you know what, my sister called me and I didn't answer her. Okay, that if that's what you did. When it comes to me, my son passed away, and I struggled saying that my son was murdered. I had a hard time for years with that word, but it was under someone I was seeing. Someone I was seeing murdered him, and I kept blaming myself and blaming myself. But then, here comes my husband to my life, and he's like, well, you have to take accountability for what you've done. And we broke up that day because I'm like, what is he saying, that I did it, and it's my fault? But I had to realize what that means. And it's good morning.
Good morning.
And it's not my fault, it's just that what was my fault is that I brought that guy into their life. But what he's done, that's on him. But that's when accountability comes, because if you take accountability for what you've done, it makes grief a lot easier, because here you're not sitting blaming yourself. And one thing I want to share that helped me a lot. I remember one day I was driving home from work, and I don't know why I had that image. What if I died instead? What if I was dead, not my child? What would I want my kids to cry all the time and not have a life and be miserable? And of course not. If I'm dead, I want my kids to be happy, live their life, and I'll be with Jesus. But that day when I thought about that, it changed my mentality, and it changed what I think. Like, why? I'm here being, sometimes I am miserable and I cry, and that's grief. It happens. I have the good days and the bad days, and it's the new normal. You gotta live with that for the rest of your life, and it never goes away. It's there. But when I changed that mindset, like, okay, if I was dead, I want them to be happy. So I'm sure my son wants me to be happy. And taking accountability makes grief so much easier. Like not to blame yourself, to take accountability for what you've done. Even in my marriage, my husband and I, sometimes it's easy to point the finger, and we have to, like, okay, you know what, I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Sometimes we don't do it like that, and we have to think about it, because everybody think, oh, I'm right, he's wrong, or vice versa. And we just have to listen to each other's heart and what the other one is saying, and then take accountability for what you've done. It honestly makes life a lot easier, and even with our kids, like, okay, you did wrong. My husband has a rule in the house. It says, you mess up, you fess up. Like, you made a mistake, just admit you're wrong and you're sorry, and let's move on, instead of making excuses. But the grief is a long journey. If you're grieving, I'm praying for you. Um, it's a process. I'm just glad that God put people in my life to help me grieve the right way and grieve a healthy way, because it's very hard to grief because it's not taught. Like, how would you learn how to grieve your child? It's not taught, and people don't talk about it. I never talked about grief, but I never had to, but like, that's how death comes. It comes suddenly, and then what do you do? And I was lucky that and blessed that I had a good support system, and people that walked with me along the way and held my hand until I got where I am today. And trust me, every time I think I mastered grief, there comes one day that I'm down with the meltdown, trying to find a way or a new way or a new mindset, or start over. It's a tough process. It's not easy, and nobody could tell you how to grieve. I mean, people grieve differently, but there's that, like, accountability, blame, certain things, and I struggled talking about grief for a long time, even with my husband. Sometimes he don't know what's wrong, and then once I'm over it, I'm like, well, I was grieving, I was having a bad day. And he's like, well, why didn't you tell me? Now here, sometimes I assume he knows. Well, he don't know. So sometimes it's good to talk about it. I'm trying to learn that. I'm trying to learn to talk about it. It's not easy, but I'm praying one day I'll get there, because when I talk about it, it does make it easier, but it's not easy to talk about. But thank you for listening. If you have any questions, I'm going to try to keep making videos as much as I could and as the Lord leads me. God bless you guys and have a great day.